You passed. If you're reading this message on October 31st, the very last day of October, the final hours before November begins, that is not an accident. That is not a coincidence. That is not random timing. You are seeing this message on this specific day because you have passed the final test. You have survived what was designed to destroy you. You have endured what should have broken you. You have made it through the most spiritually intense month of your life, and you're still standing. You're still here. You're still believing. You're still fighting. And that means something profound. That proves something significant. That confirms something that heaven has been watching all month long. October has been a test. The entire month has been one long, brutal, relentless examination of your faith, your endurance, your commitment, your character, and your calling. Every attack you faced was evaluating whether you were really ready for what God is about to release in November. Every trial you endured was measuring whether you could handle the weight of the blessing that's coming. Every dark night you walked through was determining whether you would quit or whether you would keep going. And today, October 31st, the last day of the test, you're reading these words, which means you passed. You didn't just survive October, you conquered it. You didn't just endure the warfare, you won the battles. You didn't just hold on by a thread, you held on with strength that came from a source beyond yourself. And now, as October comes to an end, as November is about to begin, as the season shifts and the door opens into everything that's been prepared for you, heaven is confirming to you through this message that you passed the final test. You are approved. You are qualified. You are ready. And what's coming in November is beyond anything you've been imagining. Stay with me through this entire message, because I'm going to reveal what the test was really measuring. Why October had to be this intense, what passing the test means for your future, and what you can expect now that you've made it through. And if your spirit is already stirring, if something inside you is confirming that this message is for you, write 777 in the comments right now. That number of divine perfection and completion will mark you as someone who is ready to receive what God is about to release. Let me start by explaining what was really happening during October, because you need to understand that what you experienced this month was not random chaos. It was not the enemy running wild without purpose. It was not just bad luck or a difficult season. October was a divinely orchestrated testing period designed specifically for chosen ones who are about to step into new levels of authority, anointing, and assignment. Think about it this way. God doesn't promote people who aren't ready for promotion. He doesn't give authority to people who will abuse it. He doesn't release blessing to people who can't steward it. He doesn't entrust assignments to people who will quit when things get hard. So before he moves you to a new level, before he gives you what he's been preparing, before he opens doors that will change your entire trajectory, he tests you, not to hurt you, not to torture you, but to prove you, to refine you, to prepare you, to make absolutely certain that when he gives you what's coming, you'll be able to carry it, handle it, and complete it. October was that test. It was the final examination before your promotion. It was the last trial before your breakthrough. It was the ultimate proving ground before God releases you into everything he's called you to be and do. And the reason October had to be so intense, so difficult, so relentless, is because what's coming in November requires a level of strength, faith, and character that could only be developed through intense testing. You couldn't carry November's blessing with September's capacity. You couldn't handle November's assignment with September's maturity. You couldn't steward November's authority with September's character. So October had to stretch you, break you down, rebuild you, refine you, and prepare you for what's next. Every attack was building your endurance. Every trial was developing your faith. Every dark night was strengthening your trust. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't was proving to heaven that you're ready for what they're about to give you. And now it's October 31st. The last day, the final hours, and you're still here. You didn't quit. You didn't give up. You didn't walk away from God. You didn't lose your faith. You didn't surrender to despair. You made it, which means you passed. Now let me tell you specifically what the test was measuring, because October wasn't testing just one thing. It was a comprehensive examination of multiple areas of your life and character that will all be essential for your next season. The first thing October tested was whether your faith could withstand extreme pressure. Not the kind of faith that's easy when everything is going well, when circumstances confirm what God said, when you can see progress, but the kind of faith that holds on when nothing makes sense, when circumstances contradict what God promised, when it looks like you're going backward instead of forward, when every visible sign says that God forgot you, or lied to you, or abandoned you. October put your faith under crushing pressure. It created situations where believing seemed foolish. It allowed circumstances that made trusting God look naive. It permitted delays that made waiting feel pointless. And through all of it, the test was simple. Would you still believe? Would you still trust? Would you still hold on to what God said, even when everything visible told you to let go? And you did. Despite the pressure, despite the circumstances, despite the delays, despite the opposition, you believed. You might have wavered, you might have doubted, you might have questioned, but you didn't completely let go. You held on, and that faith under pressure is what qualified you for what's next. Because November is going to require you to believe for things you've never believed for before. To trust God for provision and protection and promotion at levels you've never experienced. And October proved that your faith can handle it. The second thing October tested was how you respond when you're under spiritual attack. Not whether you can stay peaceful when everything is peaceful, but whether you can maintain your position when hell is throwing everything it has at you. October brought attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. Financial attacks, relational attacks, health attacks, mental and emotional attacks, attacks on your peace, your joy, your clarity, your confidence. And the test was, how do you respond? Do you collapse? Do you retaliate in the flesh? Do you let the attacks pull you out of your character? Do you fight back with the enemy's weapons, anger, bitterness, revenge, gossip? Or do you fight with spiritual weapons, prayer, worship, declarations, faith? Do you let the attacks define you or refine you? Do you let them destroy you or strengthen you? You chose to fight spiritually. You might have been tired. You might have been hurt. You might have wanted to quit, but you didn't resort to fleshly warfare. You didn't let the attacks pull you into the enemy's territory. You stayed in your spiritual authority. You fought from your knees. You declared victory even when you couldn't see it yet. You worshipped in the middle of the battle. And that response to attack is what qualified you for greater authority in November. Because authority is given to those who know how to fight correctly, who understand spiritual warfare, who won't abuse power or fight in the flesh. The third thing October tested was your faithfulness in the hidden place. When nobody's watching, when there's no audience, when there's no recognition or reward, October stripped away a lot of the external motivations that might have been driving you. It removed the applause. It took away the visible results. It isolated you from the people who used to encourage you. And in that place of hiddenness, in that season of obscurity, the test was, will you still be faithful? Will you still pray when nobody knows you're praying? Will you still worship when nobody hears you worshiping? Will you still do what's right when nobody sees you doing it? And you did. In the hidden place when nobody was watching, when nobody was applauding, when nobody was even aware of what you were going through, you remained faithful. You kept praying. You kept seeking God. You kept doing what you knew you were supposed to do, even though nobody was acknowledging it. And that faithfulness in the hidden place is what qualified you for public promotion in November. Because God only promotes publicly those who've been faithful privately. He only gives platforms to those who've proven they don't need a platform to serve him. The fourth thing October tested was whether you can stand alone without the support systems you're used to having, without the people you normally lean on, without the comforts and securities that usually hold you up. October isolated many chosen ones. It removed certain relationships. It created distance from people you thought would be there. It left you in positions where you couldn't rely on human help, where no person could fix what you were facing, where you had nobody to turn to except God. And the test was, can you stand when you're standing alone? Can you survive when your usual support systems are gone? Can you keep moving forward when nobody is walking with you? Or do you need people to hold you up? Do you need circumstances to be comfortable? Do you need external validation to keep going? You proved you can stand alone. You discovered that when everything else is stripped away, when everyone else steps back, when all external support is removed, you and God are enough. You found strength you didn't know you had. You accessed grace that surprised you. You stood when you thought you'd fall. And that ability to stand alone is what qualified you for leadership in November. Because leaders have to be able to stand when nobody else is standing, to keep going when everyone else is quitting, to believe when everyone else is doubting. The fifth thing October tested was your endurance. Not your ability to survive a single battle, but your capacity to endure prolonged warfare, to keep fighting day after day, week after week, without relief, without breaks, without the battle ever seeming to end. October didn't give you one hard week. It gave you 4 hard weeks. It didn't hit you with one crisis. It hit you with multiple crises in succession. It didn't allow you to recover between attacks. It kept the pressure constant, the intensity high, the warfare relentless. And the test was, how long can you endure? When will you break? When will you give up? When will you say, I can't do this anymore? At what point do you tap out? The enemy was trying to find your breaking point. He was testing your limits. He was pushing you to see how much you could take before you quit. And you endured. You kept going longer than you thought you could. You survived more than you thought you could survive. You held on when holding on seemed impossible. You made it through day after day, week after week, attack after attack without quitting. And that endurance through extended warfare is what qualified you for marathon assignments in November. Because what's coming isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And God needed to know you could handle sustained intensity, prolonged pressure, extended battles without collapsing. The sixth thing October tested was your ability to trust God when he seems silent, when he's not speaking the way he used to, when heaven feels closed, when prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling, when you can't sense his presence the way you're used to sensing it. October created what spiritual traditions call the dark night of the soul. That season where God's presence seems to withdraw, where his voice seems to go quiet, where you feel like you're walking alone, even though you're still praying, still seeking, still crying out. And the test was, will you trust God when you can't hear him? Will you believe he's with you when you can't feel him? Will you hold on to what he said in the past when he's not saying anything new in the present? Will you keep seeking him even when he seems to be hiding? Or do you need constant communication to maintain faith? Do you need to always feel his presence to keep trusting? You chose to trust him anyway. You held on to what he said before, even though he wasn't saying anything new. You believed he was with you even when you couldn't feel him. You kept praying even when prayers felt empty. You continued seeking him even when it seemed like he was hiding. And that trust in his character when you can't sense his presence is what qualified you for greater intimacy in November, because God draws closer to those who love him for who he is, not just for what he does or how he makes them feel. The seventh thing October tested was your integrity. Whether you would compromise your values, your standards, your convictions when under extreme pressure. October created situations where the easy way out required compromise. where relief was available if you just bend a little on what you know is right, where escape was possible if you just lower your standards temporarily, where help was offered if you just make one small exception to what you believe. And the test was, what will you do when compromise is the easy option? Will you maintain your integrity when nobody would know if you didn't? Will you keep your standards when lowering them would make life easier? Will you hold to what's right when doing wrong would bring immediate relief? Or do you have a price? Is there a point where pressure can make you compromise? You refused to compromise. You held to your values even when it cost you. You maintained your integrity even when it made things harder. You kept your standards even when lowering them would have brought relief. You chose the right path even when the wrong path was easier. And that refusal to compromise under pressure is what qualified you for positions of influence in November. Because God only puts people in places of influence who can be trusted not to sell out, not to compromise, not to sacrifice what's right for what's easy or profitable. The eighth and final thing October tested was your willingness to release what you're holding on to that God is trying to remove. October came with losses. Relationships ended. Opportunities closed. Doors shut. Things you wanted didn't happen. Things you were holding on to were taken away. And it hurt. It was painful. It felt like loss. But the test was, will you let go when God is trying to take something from your hands? Will you release what you're gripping when He's trying to remove it? Will you trust that what He's taking is making room for something better? Or will you hold on so tightly to what you have that you can't receive what He's trying to give? You let go. It wasn't easy. It hurt. You grieved, but you released what God was removing. You opened your hands instead of making fists. You surrendered instead of resisting. You trusted that loss was actually making room for gain. And that willingness to let go of what's holding you back is what qualified you for new things in November. Because God can't give you what He has for you if your hands are full of what you're refusing to release. Now here's what's important to understand. October wasn't testing just one area. It was testing all 8. And to truly pass the final test, to be approved for what's coming in November, you had to pass all 8 areas. Not perfectly. None of us are perfect, but you had to demonstrate faith under pressure, and correct response to attack, and faithfulness in hiddenness, and ability to stand alone, and endurance through warfare, and trust when God seems silent, and refusal to compromise, and willingness to let go. That's why October was so comprehensive, so multifaceted, so relentless. It wasn't just throwing random difficulties at you. It was systematically testing every area that will be essential for your next season. Because November is going to require all 8 of these qualities. You're going to need faith under pressure. You're going to need to know how to respond to attacks correctly. You're going to need faithfulness in hidden places. You're going to need the ability to stand alone. You're going to need endurance for extended assignments. You're going to need to trust God when you can't sense Him. You're going to need integrity that won't compromise. And you're going to need the willingness to keep releasing what He's taking so you can receive what He's giving. October proved you have all 8, not because you were perfect in any of them, but because you demonstrated enough strength in all of them to show heaven that you're ready for promotion. You proved you're not going to quit. You proved you're not going to compromise. You proved you're not going to fall apart when things get hard. You proved you can be trusted with more. And now it's October 31st, the last day of testing, the final hours before November begins. And you're reading this message, which means you made it. You passed. You're approved. Now let me tell you what passing this final test actually means for your future. Because this isn't just about surviving October. This is about what you're now qualified to receive, to carry, to step into. Everything changes when you pass heaven's tests. Doors open that were previously locked. Favor flows that was previously withheld. Assignments are released that were previously held back, and blessing manifests that was previously waiting for you to be ready. First, passing the test means you're about to receive what was being held in reserve until you proved you could handle it. Throughout October, God was watching, heaven was observing, angels were taking notes, and there were blessings, opportunities, connections, and breakthroughs that were ready to be released, but couldn't be released until you passed the test. Because if God had given you certain things before you were ready, you would have destroyed them, wasted them, or been destroyed by them. Think about it like a parent who knows their child wants to drive. The car is sitting in the driveway. The keys are available, but the parent doesn't hand over the keys until the child gets their license, until they prove they know how to drive, until they demonstrate they can handle the responsibility. It's not that the parent doesn't want the child to have the car. It's that the parent loves the child too much to give them something dangerous before they're prepared for it. That's what God has been doing with you. The blessing has been ready. The breakthrough has been prepared. The provision has been available, but He's been waiting for you to pass the test, to prove you're ready, to demonstrate you can handle what He's about to give you. And now that you've passed, now that October is over, now that you've proven yourself, everything that was being held in reserve is about to be released. November is going to be a month of receiving what was earned in October. Second, passing the test means you've been promoted in the spiritual realm. You don't have the same rank you had on October 1st. You don't have the same authority you started the month with. You don't have the same level of access in the spirit realm that you had before October. Throughout this month, as you passed each test, as you overcame each trial, as you survived each attack, you were being promoted, elevated, advanced, given increased authority, greater access, higher levels of spiritual power. And this promotion isn't just symbolic, it's real. It affects how you operate in prayer. It affects how your declarations carry weight. It affects how demons respond when you speak. It affects what doors open when you approach them. It affects how people treat you. It affects how opportunities come to you. You're not the same person who entered October. You've been upgraded, and November is going to reveal the evidence of that upgrade in your physical reality. Third, passing the test means you've been given assignments you didn't have before. God doesn't just promote you for the sake of promotion. He promotes you so you can handle assignments that require the level you've been promoted to. Throughout October, while you were being tested, God was also preparing assignments for you. Specific things He needs you to do. Specific people He needs you to reach. Specific problems He needs you to solve. Specific territories He needs you to impact. These assignments couldn't be given to the version of you that existed before October. That version wasn't ready. That version didn't have the faith, the endurance, the character, the authority required. But the version of you that emerges from October, the you that's been tested, refined, proven, promoted, that version is ready. And in November, you're going to start receiving clarity about assignments you're meant to complete. Divine downloads about what you're supposed to do. Supernatural strategy about how to execute what God is calling you to. Fourth, passing the test means divine connections are about to be released into your life. Throughout October, you were isolated. Relationships faded. Connections ended. You felt alone. But that isolation wasn't permanent. It was preparatory. God was removing people who were wrong for your next season, so He could bring in people who are right for it. He was clearing your social space so there would be room for divine connections. And now, in November, those divine connections are going to start appearing. People are going to show up seemingly out of nowhere who have exactly what you need. Relationships are going to form that feel like they were orchestrated by heaven because they were. Partnerships are going to develop that accelerate your progress. Mentors are going to appear who have the wisdom you've been seeking. Allies are going to emerge who support your assignment. These aren't random encounters. These are strategic divine connections that were held back until you passed the test and were ready to steward them correctly. Fifth, passing the test means supernatural provision is about to flow. If you've been struggling financially during October, if doors have been closed, if provision has been tight, if you've been barely making it, that's about to change. Not because circumstances suddenly improve, but because you've been promoted to a level where provision flows differently. You've proven you can be trusted with resources. You've demonstrated you won't misuse blessing. You've shown you'll steward what God gives you correctly. And now provision that was being held in reserve is about to be released. Money is going to show up from unexpected sources. Opportunities are going to present themselves that you didn't see coming. Doors are going to open that lead to increase. Resources are going to become available that weren't accessible before. November is going to be a month of supernatural provision because you passed October's test of faithfulness when provision was limited. Sixth, passing the test means breakthrough is imminent in areas where you've been experiencing prolonged blockage. That situation that's been stuck for months or years, it's about to move. That door that's been locked, no matter how hard you knocked, it's about to open. That obstacle that's been in your way, no matter what you tried, it's about to be removed. That delay that's been frustrating you no matter how much you prayed, it's about to end. October's testing proved you won't give up on what God promised, even when it looks impossible. You won't stop believing even when breakthrough is delayed. You won't quit even when the wait is longer than you expected. And that perseverance, that refusal to give up, that determination to keep believing, it qualified you for breakthrough. What's been blocked is about to break open. What's been delayed is about to be delivered. What's been stuck is about to start moving because you passed the test. Seventh, passing the test means your voice is about to carry more weight. You're going to notice that when you speak, things happen differently than they used to. When you pray, results come faster. When you declare, manifestation occurs quicker. When you speak to situations, they shift more dramatically. This isn't your imagination. This is the result of passing the test. You've been given increased authority, and that authority is evident in the power of your words. In November, you're going to start seeing tangible evidence that your words carry weight they didn't carry before. You're going to speak to mountains and watch them move. You're going to pray for people and see breakthrough happen immediately. You're going to declare things and watch them manifest rapidly. Your voice has been upgraded. Use it wisely. Use it powerfully. Use it to speak life, to declare victory, to command change in every situation that needs to shift. Let me paint you a picture of what November is going to look like for you. Now that you've passed October's final test, November is not going to be another month of warfare. It's not going to be another month of testing. It's not going to be October 2.0. November is your reward month, your harvest month, your receiving month, your manifestation month. In November, you're going to see things you prayed for finally manifesting. Promises you've been standing on finally coming to pass. Breakthroughs you've been believing for finally breaking through. It's not going to be perfect. Life is never perfect, but it's going to be noticeably different. You're going to feel the shift. You're going to see the evidence. You're going to know without a doubt that something changed when October ended and November began. In November, doors are going to open that you've been knocking on for months or years. Opportunities are going to present themselves that seemed impossible during October. People are going to say yes who kept saying no. Circumstances are going to align in your favor after being against you for so long. You're going to experience favor that makes no logical sense based on your qualifications, but makes perfect sense when you understand that you passed heaven's test. In November, clarity is going to increase about your purpose, your calling, your assignment. Things that were confusing during October are going to make sense. Questions you've been asking are going to be answered. Direction you've been seeking is going to be given. You're going to know what you're supposed to do next. You're going to understand where you're supposed to go. You're going to have strategy for how to execute what God is calling you to. In November, relationships are going to improve or end cleanly. The relationships that are meant to continue are going to get better, deeper, healthier, more aligned. The relationships that are meant to end are going to end without drama, without pain, just natural completion. And new relationships are going to form that feel like divine appointments because they are. You're going to meet people who feel like you've known them forever. You're going to connect with people who get you in ways others never did. You're going to build relationships that feel ordained by heaven. In November, your faith is going to feel stronger than it's felt in a long time. October tested your faith to the breaking point, but it didn't break. It strengthened. It deepened. It matured. And now in November, you're going to operate from a place of faith that's been proven, that's been tested, that's been refined. You're going to believe with more confidence. You're going to trust with more certainty. You're going to stand on promises with more assurance because you know your faith can handle pressure. October proved it. In November, joy is going to return. Peace is going to settle in. Rest is going to become available. Not because circumstances are perfect, but because you've survived what was trying to steal your joy, your peace, your rest. You've endured the worst and you're still standing. And now you get to enjoy the fruit of your endurance. You get to walk in the victory you fought for. You get to experience the breakthrough you refuse to give up on. Now, let me give you a specific assignment for November 1st, for the very first day of your new season. Because how you start November will set the tone for the entire month. Don't sleepwalk into November. Don't just let it happen to you. Enter it intentionally, powerfully, with full awareness of what you just survived and what you're now stepping into. On November 1st, wake up early. Don't waste the first day of your new season by sleeping late. Get up with intention. Get up with purpose. Get up ready to receive everything that's been prepared for you. The first thing you do on November 1st should be worship. Before you check your phone, before you worry about your schedule, before you do anything else, worship. Thank God for bringing you through October. Praise Him for the strength He gave you to endure. Worship Him for the grace that kept you from quitting. Acknowledge that you didn't make it through in your own power. He carried you. And let your worship on the first morning of November establish the atmosphere for the entire month. After worship, declare what November is going to be. Speak it into existence. Don't just hope it happens. Command it to happen. Declare, November is my month of breakthrough. November is my month of harvest. November is my month of manifestation. Everything I fought for in October, I receive in November. Every door I knocked on in October opens in November. Every seed I planted in October produces fruit in November. I step into this month carrying the authority I earned. I enter this month walking in the promotion I received. I embrace this month with faith that's been tested and proven. November, you belong to me, and I'm taking everything God prepared for me. After you declare, write down what you're believing for in November. Be specific. Don't write vague wishes. Write clear expectations. What breakthrough are you expecting? What doors are you believing will open? What provision are you trusting will come? What relationships are you expecting to form? What assignments are you preparing to receive? Write it all down, because what you make specific, you can measure. And when it manifests, you'll know it was God and not just good luck. Throughout November 1st, carry an attitude of expectation. Walk around knowing that something good is about to happen. Not someday, today. Not eventually, now. Expect divine appointments. Expect unexpected provision. Expect doors to open. Expect favor to flow. Expect breakthrough to manifest. Don't just hope for these things. Expect them because expectation positions you to receive. Expectation creates the atmosphere where miracles can land. And at the end of November 1st, before you go to sleep, thank God for what He did that day, even if you didn't see everything manifest yet. Thank Him that the seed has been planted. Thank Him that the process has begun. Thank Him that you're in a new season. Thank Him that you passed the test, and you're now walking in everything the test qualified you for. As this message comes to a close, I want you to take a moment and really let this sink in. You made it. You survived October. You passed the final test. You endured what was designed to destroy you. You held on when letting go would have been easier. You kept believing when doubt was screaming louder than faith. You stood your ground when everything in you wanted to run. You maintained your integrity when compromise was tempting. You trusted God when He seemed silent. You kept going when quitting seemed reasonable. You made it, and that means something. That proves something. That confirms something about who you are and what you're called to. You're not ordinary. You're not weak. You're not a quitter. You're chosen. You're strong. You're a finisher. And heaven knows it now because October proved it. So as October 31st comes to an end, as the final hours of this brutal month tick away, as November prepares to dawn, hold your head high. You passed. You're approved. You're promoted. You're qualified. And everything you've been waiting for, everything you've been fighting for, everything God has been preparing for you, it's about to be released. November is yours. You earned it. You deserve it. You're ready for it. Now step into it with confidence, with faith, with expectation, and with the full knowledge that you passed the final test. You're seeing this message on the last day of October because you passed. Welcome to your season of reward. Welcome to your month of harvest. Welcome to November.